Well, good morning. Welcome to Bible meditation on the book of Psalm. Today we're going to be looking at Psalm 1. So let me read the word of God for you. This is the word of God. It says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of the sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord. And his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruits in its season. And his leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish." This is the word of God. You know, every book has their introductions. Every speech has their introductions. And that is where you get the audience attention. Also, the beginning of the chapter is very vital because the writer gives you the summary of the entire book. This is where you write your thesis in the beginning. Now, we don't have time to cover everything that is in this passage, but I do want to focus on verse 2 through 4. Now, when we look at this passage, David gives a two picture. First is there's a tree and a chaff. And in verse 2, David says that he delights in the word of God, meditating it day and night. That word delight, it's a very interesting word because David is saying, my joy is the word of God. Now that reminds me, ever since I was, studying the word of God and meditating the word of God, I was telling myself, man, I want that joy in my life. And so I started reading the Bible so that I can have joy of the word of God in my heart. And the more I read it, I just fall asleep. Frankly, because I didn't understand the meaning of it. And also it just doesn't really make sense to me. And there was no joy in my heart. And I was struggling. And as I get older, I learned that I was missing a very important information. Now let's look at verse 3. It says, "He's like a tree planted by the streams of water that yields its fruits in its season, and his leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers." Notice what David says here. This tree has everything that it needs. It has water. It has leaf, will not wither. And so it has everything that the tree needs. So in other words, God is saying, those who meditate the word of God, you have everything that you need. In fact, David says that you will be prosper. Now the word prosper does not mean that you will be successful if you start a business and you make a lot of money. But the word prosper means that you will overcome your struggles, overcome the difficult times. In fact, many of us, our stress normally comes from relationship problems. And so David had to face all kinds of relationship problems. David had a relationship problem with his boss. That was Saul. Saul was trying to kill him. He had a relationship with his people. They wanted to kill him too. And then he had children problem as well. His kids were killing each other and they were fighting one another. There's all kinds of stress that he went through. But David, as he meditated the word of God day and night, he found his delight. He has tasted the goodness of God. And that's what I was missing. I was reading the word of God, but I was not really living it. And I was not really applying in my life, and I wasn't really tasting the word of God. I was just trying to think about what this really means. But instead of God is telling us, is that we need to live the word in order to taste the goodness of God. Now there is a warning here now. Notice on verse 4. Verse 4 it says, "The wicked are not so, but are like chaff that wind drives away." What is this chaff? Well, the farmer during the fall time, he gets all this grain and he throws the grain to the air, and as the wind blows, the chaff and the grain is divided, is separated, and the chaff blows away and the grain falls down to the ground. And so there's an interesting picture here. So if you notice the difference here, the tree and the chaff, what's the major difference? Well, the tree is, there's a root. As a tree grows, the root goes deeper and deeper, and it goes to the water, and it gets all the water from the root. And so when there's a storm comes, the tree will stand firm because of the root. But the chaff, the major difference is that chaff does not have any root. And then it's interesting here is David is this, the chaff, it drives away from the wind. In other words, David is saying the word of God is not in the person who does not meditate the word of God. Therefore, they're going to be driving away. Whatever the world says, they follow. Whatever the temptation comes to them, they will follow. And there is no root in them. Therefore, they're going to fall. In fact, Jesus gives an illustration after preaching the Sermon on the Mount. At the end of the sermon, he says, those who actually practice the word of God, they're like a house that's built on a rock. But those who don't meditate the word of God and don't live the word of God, they built their house on a sand. And then when the wind blows, when difficult times comes, they will fall. And that's what God is saying to us. Through the book of Psalm today, Psalm 1, perhaps God is saying to you, what is your delight? Is your delight truly in the word of God? Or maybe God is saying to you today, you need to meditate the word of God day and night. Not just once in a while, but every day. Or maybe perhaps God is saying the word prosperous. Do you want to be prosperous? Then you need to seek the word of God more than anything else. Because the word of God will make you prosperous in your time. And then finally, maybe God is saying, why are you being like the chaff? Don't follow the world's way. If you follow the world's way, the wind will blow and you will blow just like the rest of them, and you will fall down. You know, personally for me, as I began to meditate this word this morning, it's the word delight for me. Do I truly delight in the word of God every day? Is the word of God truly my delight, my only delight? And that's my challenge for me personally. And so spend some time praying to God. What is God saying to you? And I will be praying for you. And I will see you tomorrow meditating the word of God again through the book of Psalm. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.